So one of the reasons why Owens is so well remembered is because he was one of the poets who participated in this writing project, trying to write through the grief of war, and did so in a way that really captured the violence of war for the first time. And again, we have to remember that at this time period, that there wasn't TV, there wasn't radio, and most of the news that people received from the war front was by the government propaganda machine, which painted a very different picture from what the poets were starting to distribute. And so this is, I know I've said over and over again that the modernists were trying to go for high art. But this is also an example about how the modernists gave a voice to people from, from the lower and the middle classes, and because of literacy and because of printing technology, that their words were able to be distributed. So you can see how incredibly graphic this particular passage is, lines 17 through 24 from Dulce Decorum Est, where Owens writes, "If in some smothering dreams you too could pace behind the wagon that we had flung him in, and watch the white eyes writhing in his face, his hanging face like a devil sick of sin, if you could hear at every jolt the blood come gargling from the froth-corrupted lungs, obscene as cancer, bitter as the cud of vile incurable sores on innocent tongues." You can see, again, like how shocking and how vividly Owens describes the shockingness of gas warfare. And this was something that was new to World War One, that shocked people, that it could be so brutal, that death could come to so many innocent soldiers so quickly and so disgustingly. So he says finally in the last lines of his poem, "My friend, you would not tell with such high zest to children ardent for some desperate glory the old lie, dulce decorum est, pro patria more," which again means sweet and fitting it is to die for your fatherland. And so you can see how there's this thread of themes that's going on amongst the war poets, where there's this critique of mainstream culture that says, hey, let's go to war, you're going to be a hero. And then the people who go to war who say, wow, that was really bad and really disgusting and people died. And this is, again, a theme amongst the modernist poets. So we see this denigration of high English patriotism, and also one that withholds traditional ideas of what is beauty. And Owens does this by juxtaposing civilized ideals, the passing bells, the prayers, the choirs, and then the uncivilized, brutal violence of war. So the truth to take away from Owens' poetry is that war is a rational violence, and that he's seeing these terrible images of death. So Hooley's A War Film, the last poem that we're going to discuss for today, there are allusions that you might be unfamiliar with historically within British culture. First of all, the Mons Retreat in line 5, it refers to the Battle of Mons, which was the first action seen by World War I British troops There was a 2-week retreat where the British troops were fleeing from the front line. But during this 2-week retreat, they managed to protect the French and to hold off the Germans. So the old contemptibles, which are referred to in line 6, there was the nickname that was given by the end of the year 1914, after the Battle of Mons, to the old regular British Army. So even though they had been wiped out by this 2-week retreat, they managed to stop the German advance. And this was the nickname that they gave to those soldiers. So apparently Emperor Wilhelm II of Germany was famously dismissive of the British Army and reportedly issued an order in August of 1914 to, quote, exterminate the treacherous English and walk over General French's contemptible little army, end quote. So the survivors of this retreat dubbed themselves the Contemptibles, and that's how they came to have this nickname. So there's actually no evidence of any order being issued by the Kaiser, but so it's assumed that this story was British propaganda, but it's one that has often been repeated as fact, and then of course has made its way into our literature. So Hooley's A War Film is referring to the moment when a mother is watching and hearing about this retreat on the news. And then she says, when the day was done, my little son wandered at bedtime, why I kissed him so, naked upon my knee. How could he know the sudden terror that assaulted me? The body I had borne 9 moons beneath my heart, a part of me, if some day should be taken away to war, tortured, torn, slain, rotting in no man's land, out in the rain, my little son. Yet all these men had mothers, every one. So you can see again in Hooley's poetry this real emphasis on the connection between the ideas of war tearing families apart, and that there is a sincere and discreet difference between the propaganda that's promoted by the government that says that war is something, valiant, that we should be proud of, and then the peoples whose lives are torn apart when their children become, victims to that machinery. And this is really distinctive of the World War I poets. This just sheer anger at the disconnect between what is culturally acceptable to say, war is great, and then what is reality, which is war kills. And specifically for the war poets, that's what they say. We're going to see that in other modernist poetry and fiction, and in that they're really identifiable by their sincere anger between what they've been raised to believe and then what they feel has been dealt to them. In this specific instance, we're talking about World War One, but they have other things that they're also upset about. All right, so what is your assignment for this week? I am, again, really sorry that I had to cancel class today, especially because I find the modernist literature so moving even if you don't agree with their messages, they are absolutely sort of in your face. And I really would have loved to have spent time with you guys today and have heard your responses to the war poets. So what I want us to do is, and what I'm asking you guys to do, is I'm going to start a forum post on our Moodle page. And what I would like, in order for you guys to, earn your attendance for today, is for each of you to either post a question about the World War I poets, or to post an observation about the World War I poets. So that's step number one. Post a question, here's something that I don't understand, or post an observation, this is something that I think. And then I want you also to respond to one of your fellow classmates' either questions or observations. So it's 2 steps. Shouldn't take that long, but I am really interested to hear, and I would like to create this sort of environment where we can discuss what you all thought. Because, again, even though I'm sure you have done the reading and you've watched the videos, what we missed out on today was our time together to have a conversation, which I think is so important and crucial to our experience of what does it mean to read literature, and what does it mean to react to it and to listen to other people's thoughts and then to respond to their thoughts. So I'm going to post this forum on Moodle here in just a second, and then I look forward to reading and responding to and discussing with you guys what you thought about today's reading assignments. Okay? See you on Thursday.